Yeah, 1-2-1-2 in the place to be. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing out there? Apologize for the tardy start, but things were a little off today, and I'll tell you why. And sometimes I actually like to do shows when mentally and physically I might be fatigued because of some other stuff I might have been doing during the day. Um, and today's one of those days, but I felt compelled because of the love that I get from people. Um, Anybody who takes their time either doing a live broadcast or listening to the show the next day, whatever the case, I'm truly honored. And I got inspired today um, watching basketball and just kind of reminiscing about sports. And I had an early day because I had a studio session. I'm working on a song that I am incredibly excited about. It's probably going to be out in a month. And my producer, the gentleman that I work with, moved. And make a long story short, I had to travel 2 hours each way to get to his studio for a 9 o'clock session. So I was up really, really early and excited to get in the studio. I mean, that's my real happy place, is what I like to do. Creating music is something that brings me great joy. Watching sports, I can't play anymore. I can still coach, but I can't play anymore. But just to get a a little idea of what it might feel like to be on stage, like some of these incredible athletes that we enjoy watching, is something that I like to do. And I kind of get that joy at this point by writing and making music. As I digress, my name is Frank Red. What's up, everybody? This is the In the Dungeon show, and we're coming to you on a late night tip. Sit back and enjoy. Like I said before, whom I'm talking to or how many really doesn't matter. It's always about the quality and the content of the show. And when you listen to it, or if you listen to it, whenever, that's up to you. We got a lot to talk about. The NBA playoffs is in full effect. Some narratives are starting to unfold. Some good, some sad, some unexpected. But for all those people out there who was somber about some of the great NBA players of the past decade and a half winding down their careers and thinking about what the prospects for the future would be, relax. We've been down this road before, and all you got to do is watch. Put away the statistics. Get off the computers. Stop looking at the analytical data and just watch the games. All right. If you just watch the games, the conclusion that you will draw is the NBA has never been better. The future is tremendously bright. And if you are an NBA fan, you should feel happy about the prospects for success over the next 10, 20 years, 10, 15 years, because it's going to be fantastic. How you watch games will be different. And that would be a little frustrating for me. But when you got the likes of Shea Alexander Gillis, Shea Gillis, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, players like that, you have to feel good about the prospects of success. All right. We also had the NFL draft, and I'm not a big draft guy to the extent that I'm going to talk to you about what's taking place in the fifth or sixth rounds. I play the hits. I watch a lot of college football, so I know who the top players are. So we can talk about that. San Francisco 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall. I saw him at Arizona State when he started his career, ended up at Florida. Good, solid wide receiver. But what a buildup. What a buildup by the 49ers. And kind of came in like not a bad movie, but not something that should have been hyped up. All right. Pearsall, I think, is going to be a good player. He runs the entire route tree. But I ask, is he better than Third and Jennings right now? Was he drafted because there is an imminent move between Ayuk or Debo? I think all of those guys will be on the 49ers next year. I think it's part of the 49ers negotiating tactics to, try to scare their players a little bit. It doesn't really work, because, again, if you're a football player and you're not fixated on making the money as much as you can, as fast as you can, then you're really in the wrong business. So we'll see how Ricky does. Hopefully he does well. But I would say that the pick, based on the hype and all of the shows, was a little bit underwhelming. But he's going to fit right in. He's a smart guy, plays hard, and we'll see how he does. The Raiders, when you go into the season with Minshew and Aiden, what's his name, Caldwell, Aiden, as your starting quarterbacks, you're basically saying that we're going to compete to come in third or fourth in our division. Don't really get that. You want to talk about it? We can. All right. My man Jimmy says, I put my glasses on here. Man, Ant is going to be one of the best players in the league for years to come. Yeah, man. Let me say this. This is not hyperbole. This is just a guy who has watched enough basketball and played enough and been around long enough to make a bold statement like this. At the age of 22, Anthony Edwards is at least as good as Michael Jordan. Let me repeat that. At the age of 22, Anthony Edwards is as good as Michael Jordan was at 22, which is scary. Now, is he going to be Michael Jordan? I'm not ready to say that. And the greatness about Michael was so driven. Michael got better and better and better. How will Anthony Edwards deal with his success? We don't know, but the guy is tremendously talented. One of the things about him that is very Mike-like is when he goes to the basket, he's looking for somebody to dunk on. He's not looking to, get it over the top before the guy turns around. No. Anthony Edwards is looking to dunk on somebody. And if you're not careful, he'll break your neck. Doesn't have the best shooting form, but it's comfortable for him. He has the long ball, the straight line drive. He can kind of get to a spot in the lane. This dude is the real deal. I don't need to look at numbers. I don't need analytical data. I trust my eyes. I know the game. Anthony Edwards is the best two guard in the NBA. Okay? He's the best two guard in the NBA. At 22, this guy's the best two guard in the NBA. It's scary. And I got to give his teammates a lot of credit because they have all put their egos aside and said, you know what? This is our meal ticket. This is the guy who is going to put us in a situation where we can move forward and possibly win a title. Big them up for that. That's hard to do in a community of lions full of testosterone, and yet they're acquiescing to a 22-year-old kid who they know is the best player on the team. And what was he, one of the top 5 players in the league? Definitely top 10. No doubt about that. Jimmy says, yeah, it seems like Anthony Edwards has that killer instinct a lot of athletes today lack. No question. No question about it. What's interesting about him, too, was Kevin Durant was one of his idols, one of the guys that he really admires. And he's out there talking smack to his idol, telling him that he's going to take him out. He's not deferential at all. He's telling you exactly what's on his mind. I mean, I love that youthful exuberance that he walks around with. Is he cocky? Hell yeah. He should be cocky with that kind of talent. I'm very impressed with Anthony Edwards, and I'll be the first one to say I got that one wrong. I thought that he would be a good player. I mean, come on. I never thought this guy would be a flop. I thought he'd be a solid NBA player, perennial 20-point scorer, but not necessarily a guy who was going to change the dynamic of the league and his team. He proved me wrong. This dude is a leader of men at 22, and he cares about the game. And that's what I care about. When I watch basketball, I'm looking beneath the veneer. What's the real story? What are we watching? It's a lot of those stories out there, like the Phoenix Suns, for instance. To get swept by the Timberwolves, that's embarrassing. You got a bunch of, quote, Hall of Fame players giving up. And I mean, unconsciously, consciously, whatever the case. Now, roster construction was a problem. You can't win without defensive players. The only defensive player that they had on their team, Josh Okogie, for some reason, well, we know the reason. He's not a good offensive player. But if you're Frank Vogel, you got to play that guy. How could you not play Josh Okogie the entire series? So this is not a great series for Frank Vogel as far as I'm concerned. A lot of time owners think that they can duplicate the success in the sports ownership arena that they've had in their regular business, and it's different. It's just not the same. It's not the same. Coaching matters. Who's wearing your uniform matters. I'm watching Kevin Durant. I was happy that Kevin Durant played well tonight, but I would love for Kevin Durant to say what everybody watching him is thinking. Just come out and admit you made a bad decision leaving the Warriors. I mean, can you imagine the 10,000-pound gorilla that he would release off his shoulders if he did that? Because he's still playing well. And I think also what he would do is he would open up the possibilities of him maybe rejoining the Warriors. Because two narratives are emerging. The veteran Hall of Fame stars do not have the ability to carry teams anymore. They can't do it. But they're still good players. If they band together, they can still compete. And I'm going to say they can still win championships. Not a lot of championships because Father Time is undefeated. But if you put a LeBron James or Kevin Durant on the Golden State Warriors, they're going to be really, really good. Now you might go, well, Red, who do they have to give up? We can work through that. Even this year watching the Warriors, the one thing that we found out is Stephen Curry can no longer carry the water of everybody else. He can't do it. He gets tired. But we have seen nothing from Stephen Curry that says that he can't beat his man one-on-one. He can still beat his man one-on-one. He can still go out there and cook people. But he cannot carry the load for everybody else. The same can be said for the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James. What LeBron is doing at 39, 40 years old is something that we've never seen before. But what we've noticed, and he has a running mate in Anthony Davis, who is probably playing the best basketball that he's played since the bubble. All right. I want to big him up for that. After signing a big time contract, he's come out and he's played good basketball. LeBron can't carry his teammates anymore, nor should he have to. The other challenge that the Lakers have is, this shows you how unbalanced they are. They're not a very smart basketball team. And I'm saying this knowing that LeBron is one of the highest IQ players in all of the NBA, in the history of the NBA. And I think, Anthony Davis has a pretty good working knowledge of basketball. I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but if you go 1 through 18, they're not a very smart team. They're just not. So when they're not making shots, it's bad. Also, I think the LA effect kind of takes over some of those guys because they're all millionaires. They all expect to be treated special. And that can't happen. That cannot, there needs to be levels to this. I'm convinced with the Lakers that you cannot even think about winning a championship if you have Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell as your starting backcourt. Both of them are decent players. They can't play together and win championships. Austin Reeves, if you go back to the World Cup games last year, Austin Reeves got cooked every game. He's not even really being considered for the Olympic team based off last year's performance. And he's a decent offensive player. A come-up story. A guy didn't get drafted. Yeah, no, he's a good player, right? But championship level player, when you don't play defense, So this year's going to be interesting because it would not surprise me if LeBron James is not playing somewhere else next year for the reason that I laid out. If you put him with some veteran Hall of Fame caliber players that they got one more run in them, they can win championships because the IQ of those players and the will and the determination is among the best in history. So I'm excited about it. This idea that organizations don't want to trade young players because they might mortgage the future of that organization is ridiculous. It's actually dumb. It's not smart at all. As if you can predict the future. Any of us can predict the future. Please talk to organizations that have never won a championship. You don't know what the future is. So, if you have some assets, I go back to even Don Nelson. Don Nelson made the wrong trade, but I understand where he was coming from. Remember Don Nelson traded Mitch Richmond to the Sacramento Kings? He traded Mitch Richmond because he thought the Warriors would get better. And he had a player, Billy Owens, who he was totally enamored with. That was the wrong trade. But the mentality I get, he thought he could do better. If you think you can improve your team, with the exception of a very small group of players, you have to be aggressive and open your eyes. SG, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? And you asked, how am I? I'm doing great now. I was dragging it a little bit because I had a real long day, but I felt compelled to come on air and pay respect to the listeners that support me, like you. Evening, Frank. This is Romo. What's up, Romo? How you doing, brother? Appreciate you. Yeah, man. I take this real serious, and What I'm finding out is people listen to the In the Dungeon show at different times. Some people listen to it live. Sometimes they listen to it the next day. So it's really not all about having a live audience. It's about putting together a pretty good show that people can check out whenever they want to. All right. So that's why I'm doing the show. I feel so lucky to be able to do it. I remember when I first started doing radio up in Sacramento at KHGK. And this show was different than any show that was on radio. There was nothing there. And nobody really knew me. I didn't really know anybody. I was just respectful and I was professional. And literally within a year, I was number one. Imagine being number one for 10 years on a radio station and you have like a once a week show. I was number one for 10 years straight. You ask anybody, they'll tell you. So why was I number one? I was number one because people were loyal to me, because people gave me a chance, because they found something endearing to what I was doing on air. And that loyalty is reciprocated, which is why I come on air now. I don't know who's listening. I don't know where you are, but I know that people are checking me out. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. What's your Google? What's up? You guys having side conversations. It's all good. Two things that really has brought me joy watching NBA playoffs is number one, literally 2 years ago, people were willing and ready to throw dirt on Kyrie Irving. And they couldn't separate how they felt about him on a personal level for whatever reason versus Kyrie, the basketball player. Kyrie, the team killer. Kyrie's not a team killer. Kyrie's won championships. I knew that Mark Cuban, because of who he is, because of his swag, and I knew Jason Kidd and his staff would have no problem working with Kyrie Irving. Whether or not the Dallas Mavericks win a championship this year, to me, is really not that important. Those guys got something going. It is beautiful basketball to watch those two play. And the other thing that I like is this is probably the first time that Luka has ever played on a team with somebody who is as good as he is and in key moments better than he is. Check that out. In spite of all the commentators trying to tell us, the audience, how great Luka is and he's the best and we never seen it. No, listen, dude. We can watch basketball. We know what good players look like. Luka is outstanding. But is he better than Kyrie Irving? No. They're the two future Hall of Famers that need each other. And it's beautiful to watch. My man Dre says Anthony Edwards is a superstar. No question about it. He has it going on. Superstar smile. He's witty. He looks like Adonis. The other thing about him and Jordan, he's not as tall as Jordan. Jordan was 6'6" with really long arms. Anthony Edwards is 6'5". Full of muscle. But what a freaking player, man. It's awesome. And she said thoughts on Candace Parker. I'm happy she's retiring. She is one of the great ambassadors of the game of basketball. She's a classy woman. I read something several months ago that said that she made $5.5 million last year. So she's killing it. I think she's the highest paid women's basketball player among her contemporaries. So why is somebody 38 with kind of not needed, beautiful woman, family, married, got a great job on television? Why is she out there risking ripping up one of her knees or blowing up one of her ankles when she's already won 3 championships, multiple time all-star? Candace Parker's made the right decision. I'm so happy for her. She won. SG says, go Knicks, who are 1 win away from moving to the next round. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I got that right also. I mean, you know, I'm a diehard Knicks fan. And I'm also a strong supporter of Thibodeau. He doesn't care about the noise, man. That's what I love about Tom Thibodeau. All of these coaches, oh, well, you don't want to burn your players out. Thibodeau doesn't care about that. He plays his players a ton. Why? Because he wants to win. He wants to win. And he has endeared himself with New York Knicks fans forever. Can't imagine Tom Thibodeau ever paying for dinner in Manhattan for the rest of his life. In New York, it's really about the journey. We can't even imagine what it would be like to win a championship. We haven't won a championship since 73. Can you imagine that? 73. I am so happy with this team. I love how they play. And they're a year early because they got a chip to play. Julius Randle, he's not going to be on the team next year. Good player. I've been saying now for a month or two, the Sacramento Kings should make a strong push for Julius Randle. If they want to get better, if the Sacramento Kings really want to take that leap, go out and get Julius Randle. If you got a front line of Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, Keegan Murray, D. Fox, and whoever you want to put it to, whomever. And they have the 13th pick this year. And I think they should, in spite of where he's rated, I think they should go and get the kid from Sacramento, Jarrett McClain, the 2 guard from Duke. I think he would be a major asset for Sacramento next year because he's a combo. He's not really a point. He's not really a 2. He's 6'3". He can shoot, make corner threes. He can handle well enough. Got a big heart. He's not afraid. There you go, Sac. I laid it out for you. Dre says, media folk, I'm going to put this on. Media folk have their biases, which could, in some instances, cloud a player's evaluation, true value. No question about it. No question. Which is why it's important that, and that was ZR, that we educate, right? Educate each other, because I don't know every damn thing. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. But that's why we need to have these conversations, because otherwise you got people out there co-opting opinions based on what they hear on television, which a lot of times is bullshit. Learn the game, man. Talk about the game. Dre says Anthony Edwards had 40, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 threes. You heard what I said, right? I said at the age of 22, Anthony Edwards is as good as Michael Jordan, the greatest player who has ever played in his prime. There's never been a player better than Michael Jordan in his prime. Now, I can have a conversation now with if someone can tell me, if someone wants to tell me, yo, Red, LeBron James has had a more illustrious career than Michael Jordan. Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. He's not better than Michael Jordan at his best, but what he has done, what he is doing, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. ER says, spot on, Frank. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And I want to say this. I want to see LeBron James leave the game unscathed. I mean, you know, there's always hate out there. There's always rumors about why he's been able to play so long and so on and so forth. I'm not one of those guys that needs to go out and try to dig up dirt on people. That's not what I want to do. That's not my deal. I got better things to do. I can sit back and enjoy the ride. I mean, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, LeBron's 39. LeBron looks like he plays like he's like 31. I mean, I had this debate. It wasn't even a debate, it was more of a conversation. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you wouldn't trade any assortment of players. And we know who you wouldn't trade. You wouldn't trade any asset to get LeBron James for a 2-year run? Sign Bronny James, his son, or whomever? Are you kidding me? What? That's like the inventors of Google coming to your venture capitalist firm and saying, you know what, you know, we've been working on this thing in our basement. We think it's pretty good. It's not foolproof. We probably need a little more work, but we think it's pretty good. And you go, nah, come back when it's perfect. Take a chance. I'd do that deal in a second. What's been the most interesting NBA series, playoff series thus far? We know that Orlando and Cleveland, the only people that care about that series are the owners. You know, I mean, particularly in Cleveland, because if Cleveland doesn't win, coach is getting fired, bigger staff is getting fired, and that's unfortunate, but that's the truth. They have to win. And they should win. More experience, the better. As she says, Marcus Parker is the second brother of Candace Parker, who is a professional American and Canadian football, whose line is currently a free agent. I actually didn't know that. I knew about her other brother, who is a former first-round draft pick, who is a executive, high-level executive, I believe, with the Orlando Magic right now. Very distinguished family, no doubt. Dallas Clippers, probably best series. Yeah. And thank you for getting me back on track, Jimmy, because here's the thing. How many times over the past couple of years have we turned on our televisions and listened to people tell us that James Harden was done and he couldn't play anymore? Usually from people who are not playing. The one thing about James Harden that we've all noticed, he's in great shape. He's never looked better. So there's a correlation between playing well and being in shape. I'm so happy for this guy. People talk, well, he's never going to get another big contract. Bullshit. That is bullshit. This dude is balling. And the other thing about Harden that I love, he's a chameleon, man. This guy, I mean, he's actually excelled in every facet of basketball. He's been a leading scorer. He's been the quintessential playmaker in the league. Now he's vacillating back and forth between being a playmaker and also being a scorer. Cut the check. I'm happy for this dude, man. And he's so smart that he makes basketball fun for students of the game like you and I, who really like the aesthetics of the game. And this little dance that Steve Ballmer was doing with Paul George around whether they're going to sign him or not, come on, man. Please. Cut the check. Remix channel, Clay and Green for KD. Keep CP3. Phoenix is not going to do that. If you're going to trade KD, you're going to have to give up an asset. So Kuminga is going to be involved in any serious conversations about bringing back a real asset. You know, Kuminga has to go. And if people love Brandon Podzinski as much as the Warriors do, then he'll have to go too. Who's not going? Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Those guys are going nowhere. Nowhere. Unless Klay just gets real crazy with the numbers. Fans don't understand that. I've been talking about that forever. When you as an owner buy a team for $450 million and a decade later, it's worth $7.5 billion. How can you not be indebted to the people responsible for making you crazy rich? Fans want to play like fantasy basketball. It's not, no, these are real people. These people are all connected. They're family members. And I know it's hard for fans to understand that. There's no relationships like sports relationships. They're so close. It's unbelievable how close they are. And because of what Kevin Durant did when he was with the Warriors, and the way that he comported himself and ingratiated himself into the Warriors culture, they would take him back. They take him back in a second. There is no asset on the Warriors, youthful asset that they have that they would not get rid of for Kevin Durant. No, we don't want to trade assets. Are you out of your mind? Organizations distinguish themselves all the time. Listen, if you listen to me, how did Jaime Jaquez last into the 16th pick? If he was available when the Warriors picked, they would have picked him. Every organization is not the same. You know, the Warriors, think about this. The Warriors drafted Jordan Poole with the 27-28 pick. You have to show that you have some value. If you don't have any value, then you're just like everybody else. You acquire assets to use them, develop them, and move them if you think you can get better. Jimmy says, do you think it says anything about KD that he's been on all these talented teams that haven't won rings? Brooklyn, Phoenix, OKC. Yes, I do. I think that everybody's not the same. And I think Kevin Durant is still evolving as a leader, even at this stage of his life. It's probably pretty awkward for him to wake up and be 7 feet tall and to be this great basketball player when all he really wants is just to be a regular guy, maybe be a DJ, you know? I mean, we don't know what he's really into. We don't know a lot about Kevin Durant. He's a very private guy. Not married, no kids, you know? I'm a little biased because at OKC, I know OKC's coach. I know Billy Donovan. And, you know, they blame the coach. That was not on the coach. They were up 8 points with like 4 minutes to go. And he and Russell Westbrook both had like crazy turnovers. They had nothing to do with coaching. That OKC team was better than the Warriors. And I think that they would have won a championship. So I think part of Kevin's growth, and I think that by Kevin deciding to leave the Warriors, he was already on that path of, I'm going to show everybody that I can lead my own team, right? But he's a young guy, and I think what he didn't understand is that you can grow as a leader in a multitude of ways. He could have reached any level of leadership that he wanted to get to by staying with the Warriors, by learning from his teammates, learning from Kerr, learning from the owner. Yeah, because I think that he had an ability, he had an opportunity in Brooklyn to really stand up and communicate effectively to James Harden and possibly Kyrie Irving also. And he didn't do it. And Phoenix, I'm not going to really make a statement about Phoenix simply because he's an older player now. And he was going into an organization that was already established. That's Booker's team. You know, that's Devin Booker's team. And, you know, this is Brad Beal's first year. And I think that we're all looking at Bradley Beal saying, wow, you know, we thought he had more than that. So I think if I'm going to point to anything, I think not owning the debacle in OKC, number one. I don't have a problem with him leaving and going to the Warriors, if that's what he wanted to do. But not owning that defeat, not taking some of that responsibility was very disappointing to me. And then in Brooklyn, not publicly articulating his position around all of the chaos, I also think was a missed opportunity for him. The Phoenix deal, he's just kind of, he's one of the pieces. He's one of the cogs there that they brought in that they thought they could manufacture a championship team. You can't do that. First of all, you can't win if you don't have any defensive players. So that's my take on it. Hopefully answered your question. You guys having private conversations. Come on, Chardog. Let's not bother with inconsequential comments. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. I'm not going to read them. If they don't add anything to the show, I'm not going to read your comments. Bottom line. SG says, thoughts on the San Francisco 49ers drafting Ricky Pearsall with the 31st pick in round one, the draft. How much success do you think he'll have with the 49ers? There's no reason to think that he won't be a good player, great player. Don't see it. I mean, he looks like a third receiver to me. Maybe he can be more than that. I don't know. I thought the pick was strange, but Kyle Shanahan is very particular in terms of what he's looking for out of wide receivers. I'm sure Ricky Pearsall runs the entire route tree. He's smart. He's going to work his ass off and all of that good stuff. When I watched college football last year, the guy who jumped off my screen was Keon Coleman, who was drafted by Buffalo with the 33rd pick out of Florida State. And he went to Michigan State before that and apparently didn't run real well in the combine. I don't care. Jerry Rice didn't run real well. Can he catch? This dude is a beast. This guy is like Terrell Owens. He goes up in the air and comes down with the football. He's going to be a star in Buffalo. I would have been excited for the 49ers to draft him with the 31st pick. He went 33rd. So I'm going to be watching that because I don't proclaim to be some football draft aficionado, but I play football and I trust my eyes. I also thought that Jerry Rice's kid, Brendan Rice, kind of took it on the chin a little bit. Every time I saw him at USC last year, he was catching touchdowns. He got drafted in the 7th round. You know, I thought that was kind of weird. Now, he landed in a great spot going down to Los Angeles and playing for Jim Harbaugh. So good for him. But I thought he was a shoo-in for the 49ers. Thoughts on the Washington Commanders drafting Luke McCaffrey, brother of Christian McCaffrey, with the 100th pick. Good athlete, really good athlete. I think he's kind of similar to his dad, Ed McCaffrey. Good route runner, courageous, good solid football player. He could probably return kicks. Good player. It's a pro. He's not Christian. Christian is a super athlete, and the best in the family, I guess, beyond the mom. I guess the mom is the best athlete. But Luke McCaffrey is going to do fantastic. And I'm happy that he did not get drafted by the 49ers. So he has to deal with that crap. He can go to the Washington Commanders and make his own way. Yeah. I watched him play quite a bit. Thoughts on Tariq Owens, son of T.O. I don't know a lot about Tariq. I guess he went to Missouri State, had a pretty good year last year. Doesn't appear to have the same kind of size characteristics as his dad, but it'll be interesting. I mean, just to think that you have a son who is considered enough to sign a professional contract. Whether or not he makes the team is almost irrelevant. You know, good for him, man. That's awesome. My man Jimmy says, I saw someone on X comment, man, it would be very interesting to have the privilege of sitting in on the 49ers draft war room for a draft to see how they operate. I totally agree with you. Totally agree. They don't want us to see that, but we would love to see it. And SG, I just gave you my roundup on Brendan Rice. Yeah, the 49ers are kind of interesting. They've had a lot of success. I don't think anybody can say that the Shanahan Lynch tenure has not been successful. It's been very successful. If you look at their standards, though, they haven't won a Super Bowl. And, every year there appears to be less and less of this brotherly love type of persona that I think that they like to project. The one thing that I love about the Eagles is the Eagles don't play games. They know it's about winning, and their players know it's about the money. So their players are never unclear about what they're trying to do. You know, they want to play good football and they want to get paid. You know, sometimes the 49ers, you get like Well, it's about winning first and making money second. No, it's not. I've said this a million times. If you're playing professional football and you're not fixated on making as much money as fast as you can, you're in the wrong business. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd to think anything else. The Milwaukee Bucks and Doc Rivers and Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's all weird right now. I was talking to a friend of mine before I came on air, and I said that the money is so big in the NBA and in professional sports that you cannot afford to have a superstar in your city, on your team, that does not want to be there. No one's ever going to accuse Damian Lillard of being a Jake. Nobody's going to do that. But I think it's been well documented that, you know, because of circumstance, Milwaukee is not the best place for him, considering the family dynamic. And I think that in some respects, it could have an effect on his play. You know, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's not there next year. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So, and I mean, Doc Rivers is 18 and 22. This has to be his last go round. They have a lot of money committed to him. They just look really bad. They just, horrible defense. Now, you really can't judge them without having their best, their top two players. But I kept waiting for somebody to guard Miles Turner. At this point, Miles Turner has proven that he's a good three-point shooter when he's wide open. Can somebody guard him, please? You think he's going to get that shot against the Knicks? No way. No way. Against Miami? No way. No way. He wouldn't get it against Philly. All of those teams play defense. And what did they, Milwaukee played zone for the first time. They looked like it was like a foreign object, like they've never played zone before, because they never have. So I was hoping that they would knuckle up, but they tried a little bit, but Indiana just ran those guys. And I also, from a Warriors perspective, and I would even include myself in this, I think it's time to admit that Pascal Siakam is a better player than most people thought that he was. And all of this talk around who the Warriors won't trade, Kuminga or Wiggins or who, I don't know who the Warriors, I don't know if they asked for a particular player with the Warriors, because the Warriors were one team that Siakam was slated to go to. He's a better player than people give him credit for. He's a better player than I gave him credit for. He's not just a gunner. He's not just a low post guy. This guy has a nice game. And big up Indiana for scouting him and having a real good idea of what they were getting, because he rounds out that team. He really does. Jimmy says weird not having KD, Steph, or LeBron going into the second round of the playoffs. Yeah, yes it is. You know what's funny, Jimmy, though? Up until today, in my mind, I still was dealing with these what if scenarios. What if the Warriors had won the play-in and been in the series? Because I honestly think that you really can't judge the Warriors season by losing a play-in game, a single elimination game. Think about that. Milwaukee beat Indiana in game one. Suppose that was single elimination. Indiana's up 3-1 right now. If it was single elimination, Indiana would be done. So when I hear people try to make that argument about the Warriors and somehow connect that to where they are as a basketball organization, I go, come on, man, really? That's not a good argument. And I tell you, because good teams lose in the opening round of the NCAA tournament every year. It just happens. But getting back to my point, today was the first day that I didn't miss watching the Warriors. I didn't miss them. Because everybody else had raised their level of play. That Dallas Clippers game, man, that took me back to the 2000s, the 90s, Boston Knicks, Boston, Philly, New York Knicks, Chicago. That was a great game. Know who won that game today? The fans. The Clippers won and the fans won. Remember that embrace with Mark Cuban? And I assume that was his son now. I assume his son is of age. Imagine owning a team, the Dallas Mavericks, and he sold it. But imagine owning a team, being in a place where your siblings, not your siblings, your children, your children are actually of an age they can enjoy that experience along with you. I thought that was awesome because they were both just like awestruck by that shot that Kyrie made over 3 Clippers. That was awesome. And I think at that point, a lot of people thought that Dallas was going to win the game. And the Clippers said no. And it kind of shows, like you always hear about Ty Lue being a great coach. I think for one of the few times in living color, live and direct, the nation got an opportunity to see why Ty Lue's such a great coach. His persona doesn't change. His players trust him. And as a result, they go out and they execute. I'm a big Ty Lue guy. I really am. All right. I got a chance to see a movie this week. A slow week on the movie front. I went and saw this movie called Challenges, starring Zendaya. And, Zendaya, one of the top actresses of her generation. I know her parents. And to see her just ascend to superstar status. But Challenges is not a movie that I would normally go see. But it was a spectacle and an acting masterclass for Zendaya to show her diversity. And, the movie was really about entitled, privileged athletes and that inner world that most of us never get a chance to peek into or certainly not experience, intertwined with like a sex triangle. A little too long. It was 2 hours and 11 minutes. I think they could have got everything done in about an hour and 55 minutes, but I enjoyed it. Challenges starring Zendaya, and what a talented young lady. And I never really looked at her, in a way that I would appreciate how she looks. I've never done that. She's a beautiful woman. Absolutely gorgeous too. And she did a thing in that movie. All right. So if you're a movie buff like I am, I would recommend it. It's not the best movie I've seen, but it was an acting vehicle for her to really show her chops, because she got it, man. She's awesome. My man Jimmy says, Frank, what are your thoughts on James Harden? Isn't it interesting how he went from an MVP level player to seemingly playing very poorly with the Nets and Sixers to playing well with the Clippers? Yes, Jimmy, I think you missed my take earlier. I said that that's one of the highlights for me watching the playoffs thus far is how well James Harden is playing and how he is shutting up all of his critics. Because the one thing that we've noticed about James Harden, he's in great shape. He is in phenomenal shape. And if we go back to the last couple of years in Philly, in the playoffs, he wasn't in great condition. He wasn't. And that affected his play. Think about what we saw today. In the fourth quarter, he was in total control. Every time he had to beat Luka, he left Luka in the dust, got the shot that he wanted. He was under total control. He was phenomenal. And then they put PJ Washington on him, and he embarrassed PJ Washington. So I'm happy that Steve Ballmer is going to be forced to write a check to James Harden. I love it, man. I love it. I got to think you also might have been somewhat surprised, or maybe not, but you certainly could appreciate the aesthetic beauty of how he was playing basketball this afternoon. He was the reason why they won. I mean, Paul George hit the big three. That was kind of the dagger. But I thought the completeness of James Harden's game in the fourth quarter was phenomenal. Think about it. He had 33 and PG had 32. Big time. I loved it. SG is going to give me the standard, what do you cut and paste the movie reviews? It follows a professional tennis champion. I saw the movie, man. No. Write your own review, man. Go watch the movie. Go watch the movie, SG, and then come back and tell us about it. All right? That'd be pretty cool. Listen, y'all, I think I'm going to come on tomorrow night as well. I didn't know what to expect tonight. This has been a fast-paced, interesting show. I want to thank everybody for checking me out. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to get out of here because it's getting late. Hit me up at Big Frank Red on X. If you have not subscribed to the program already and you like it, then subscribe. Hit the like button as well. It certainly helps the algorithm and all that good stuff. And if you like the show, then tell somebody, man. It's all good. We focus on content. You know that. Who do you like if the T-Wolves play the Nuggets? I like the Nuggets. I think Michael Conley Jr. Has been great in the playoffs, but he's just been making shots, wide open shots in the corner. And I think that Minnesota's doing a disservice by not playing Monte Morris because I think he's a playmaker. I think, the Sacramento Kings need a backup point guard. He'd be great for them. The Warriors might take a look at Monte Morris. I just think that Denver is going to put a lot of pressure on the other guard. And I think they'll load up on Anthony Edwards also to put even more pressure on the alternative guard to make some plays. So I like Denver. I think Denver is the better team. I wish Kawhi was playing because I think that a healthy Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden playing as well as they're playing, I think that they could have really given the Nuggets a run. And I know OKC's out there also. And Dallas is there too. We don't know who's going to win that series. But I think next year, I probably would have a different answer. But I think this year, I think Denver still has enough experience to beat Minnesota. I think next year's their year. Thanks, Frank. Great show. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. SG, possibly. Can I join you tomorrow? Possibly. No stupid stuff, man. All right. So let's connect tomorrow and then we'll discuss it. All right. I'm gonna do my thing and get out of here, everybody. I want to thank y'all once again for checking me out. My name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon program. Hit me up at Big Frank Red Subscribe to the show. Hit the like button. Hit me up on X, as I said, and join the program. Success and getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. All right? I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, good night.